Hello, Pokebros. Welcome to episode 5 of my rewrite of Ash's Kanto journey. Last time, Ash lost his first battle against Sabrina, so he headed to Lavender Town to catch a ghost type. There, his Spearow evolved, and he captured a Haunter. That is where we pick up today. Ash, Brock, and Green head out of the Pokemon Center, but as they leave, they see a Cubone run past them. The Cubone is followed by a few Team Rocket grunts. Our trio, knowing that Team Rocket are trouble, would decide to follow them. Our trio would follow Team Rocket back into Lavender Town. Here, they would see Team Rocket abusing the tiny Cubone. Ash, Brock, and Green would then all engage in a battle with a Team Rocket grunt. Ash would use Haunter against the Drowsy, Brock would use Rhyhorn against the Golbat, while Green would use Growlithe against Eradicate. Ash would call for Haunter to use a Shadow Ball, and it would connect, taking the Drowsy out. Brock's Rhyhorn would take out Golbat with a Horn attack, and lastly, Green's Growlithe would take out the Eradicate with a Flamethrower. After being defeated, the grunts would run off. Brock would then walk up to the baby Cubone, making sure it's okay. Cubone would hug Brock, making sure not to let go. Brock would then decide to capture Cubone, adding him to his team. Our trio would then set off back for Saffron. While traveling back to Saffron, our trio would come across a Machop, training his karate chop on a tree. Ash would run over, wanting to catch it, but Green would get in his way, revealing that she hasn't caught one before. Ash would resist, but after a little convincing, he would let her battle the Machop. Green would then send out her Farfetch'd. She would call for her Farfetch'd to use an Aerial Ace, and it would catch Machop off guard. Machop would then become enraged, striking back with a Karate Chop. Farfetch'd would dodge, then retaliating with another Aerial Ace. Machop would be weakened, but wouldn't give up. He would then charge him with a Mega Punch. Farfetch'd would attempt to dodge, but would fail, getting hit hard. Green would then call out to Farfetch'd, saying, "You got this, Farfetch'd. I believe in you." Farfetch'd would then nod and would charge him with an Aerial Ace. Machop would charge him with a Mega Punch. The two would meet in the middle, but Farfetch'd would weave the punch and would connect with the Aerial Ace, defeating Machop. Green would then toss Pokeball, capturing Machop. Ash and Brock would then congratulate Green on her capture. Our trio would then shortly arrive in Saffron. We'll stop to the Pokemon Center. Ash would run back into Richie. Ash would ask Richie what he was doing here, and Richie would reveal that he just finished his battle with Sabrina for his 5th badge. Ash would ask Richie what happened, and Richie would explain how he defeated Sabrina's Alakazam with his Butterfree. Ash would then congratulate Richie, and he would reveal that he was headed for his battle against Sabrina now. Richie would wish Ash luck, and then he would set off. After hearing Richie won with his Butterfree, Ash would decide to call Professor Oak for his Beedrill back, since he was also a bug type. While on the phone, Professor Oak would ask Ash how many badges he had. Ash would reveal that he had 3 badges, and Oak would inform Ash that Gary recently won his 6th gym badge against Koga. This would aggravate Ash, making him feel more behind. Ash would then send his Fear to Oak for his Beedrill. Ash would then head for the gym. After arriving, Sabrina would greet Ash again, telling him that the battle would be a 3-on-3. Sabrina would ask Ash if he was ready, and he would nod. Sabrina would then throw out Slowbro, while Ash would lead Haunter. Ash would be shocked since Slowbro wasn't on her team last time, but Brock would shout from the stands, "Ash, gym leaders all have 6 Pokemon, so they change up their team for different battles." Ash would be shocked, but would get ready to fight nonetheless. Ash would call for a Shadow Ball, but instead Haunter would just make a silly face. Ash would be confused, then calling for a Shadow Punch. This time Haunter would listen, but Slowbro would dodge, and striking back with a Psychic. The attack would land, doing super effective damage. Haunter would fall to the ground, but right before being declared fainted, he would reveal he was faking. At this point, Haunter's antics were getting on Ash's nerves, so he would recall Haunter, then sending in Pikachu. Slowbro would then land a Psychic, sending Pikachu flying. Ash would then call for a Quick Attack. The Quick Attack would land, and Pikachu would follow up with a Thunderbolt, defeating Slowbro. Sabrina would be impressed, congratulating Ash. Then she would send in an Exeggutor. Ash would be shocked by another new Pokemon. Ash, knowing Grass resists electric attacks, would call for a Quick Attack. It would land but wouldn't do much damage. Exeggutor would then begin charging up a Solar Beam. Ash would call for a Thunderbolt, and the attacks would collide, but the Solar Beam would prove stronger, taking Pikachu out. Now all tied up, Ash would send in Beedrill. Brock would command Ash, since a bug is 4 times super effective against the Grass Psychic type. Sabrina would start to fight off with a Psychic, but Beedrill would dodge, then landing a Twin Needle. The attack would do big damage, knocking the Executor back. Beedrill would charge him with another Twin Needle, but Executor would go for a Reflect, weakening the attack. Executor would then retaliate with a Psychic, doing big damage to Beedrill. Beedrill would be close to fainting, but he would go for one more Twin Needle, this time taking Executor out. Sabrina would be impressed, then sending out her ace Alakazam. Ash would call out to Beedrill, saying, "Beedrill, are you good to keep battling?" Beedrill would nod, and the fight would begin. Beedrill would charge him with a Twin Needle, weaving in between Psychic Blasts. The attack would land, doing major damage. Alakazam would go for another Psychic. Beedrill would dodge again, then firing off a Poison Sting. The attack would connect, poisoning Alakazam. Alakazam would then take Beedrill out with another Psychic. Last out for Ash would be Haunter. Despite Haunter being a struggle to work with, Ash would know that Alakazam was on a ticking clock. Sabrina would call for a Psychic, and Ash would call for a Shadow Ball. The attacks would collide, causing a huge explosion. Through the smoke cloud, Haunter would rush in, striking with a Shadow Punch. Alakazam would be knocked back, severely weakened. Ash would call for a Shadow Ball, but Haunter would again go for a Scary Face, trying to make Alakazam laugh. This would cause him to be hit with a Psychic. Haunter would then fall to the ground, very weakened. However, Alakazam would then faint from poison, winning Ash the fight. Sabrina would offer Ash the badge, but he would decline, saying that if Alakazam hadn't gotten poisoned, then he wouldn't have won. Sabrina would disagree, saying that Ash won fair and square, and that poisoning is a strategy. After hearing this, Ash would decide to take his badge. Our trio would then head to the Pokémon Center. While at the Pokémon Center, Brock would tell Ash that his next gym battle is in Celadon City. Hearing this, Ash would be ready to head right there. Ash would then just decide to swap Beedrill back out for Fearow. Then our trio would set off. While stopped at camp training with his team, a trainer would come up to Ash asking for a battle. The trainer would introduce himself as John. John would explain that he is an ace trainer whose partner Pokemon is a Poliwrath. After seeing Ash train with his Poliwag, he wants to battle. The battle would be a one-on-one, obviously with Ash using his Poliwag and John using his Poliwrath. Ash would order Poliwag to charge him with a double slap, but Poliwrath would dodge, then landing a Brick Break. John would then call for an Ice Punch. Poliwag would try to dodge, but he would fail, being hit hard. Poliwrath would then follow up with a Hydro Pump, knocking Poliwag back. Poliwag would struggle to stand, but he would have just enough strength to fire off a Water Gun. The attack would connect, but it wouldn't do much damage. Filled with frustration, Poliwag would begin to glow, forcing himself to evolve into Poliwhirl. Now with an increase in power, Poliwhirl would charge him with a Body Slam, knocking Poliwrath back. Poliwrath would then strike with a Double Edge, taking Poliwhirl out. Ash would be upset, but John would be super impressed with his strength. John would then offer to help teach Ash his Poliwhirl Ice Punch. Ash would accept, and he and Poliwhirl would begin to work with John and his Poliwrath. Ash and Poliwhirl would struggle at first, but with the help of Poliwrath, they would get the attack down. Ash would thank John, and they would promise to battle again soon. Our trio would then begin traveling again. Our trio would then arrive in Celadon City. Ash would want to head right for the gym, but Brock would ask if they could stop by Scissor Street first. Ash, knowing they always do what he asks, would agree to head there with Brock. While walking around, Brock would become infatuated with a girl named Susie. Brock reveals that she is one of the best Pokemon breeders in Kanto, and Brock wants to learn from her. Brock, Ash, and Green would then help out around Susie's salon throughout the day. Ash and Green struggle, but Brock shows his skills. However, while helping out, the shop would begin to fill with smoke, and Jesse and James would appear. They would send out Arbok and Weezing. Ash would send out Charmander, and Brock would send out Graveler for a double battle. Ash would call for an Ember, and it would hit Weezing. Brock would then follow up with a Rock Slide, and Weezing would faint. Arbok would then go for a Sludge Bomb on Graveler, but Ash would call for an Ember, and Charmander would burn it up. Graveler would then go for a Tackle, knocking Arbok out. Jesse, James, and Meowth would then run off. Susie would be impressed with Brock's strength. She would then ask Brock if he could take care of her Vulpix. Brock would accept, loving the idea of assisting Kanto's best breeder. We would then pick up the next day with Ash training in preparation for his gym battle. He would be working with Tangela to make sure he has his bind attack down. They would practice by using the attack on tree branches. Ash, feeling confident in the attack, would head for his gym battle. After arriving, Erica would introduce herself and would explain to Ash the battle will be a 3-on-3. Erica would lead Victory Bell while Ash would lead Charmander. The battle would start with Erica calling for a Razor Leaf. Ash would then call for an Ember, burning the leaves up. Charmander would then go for another Ember, landing and burning the Victory Bell. Victory Bell would then go for a Growth, powering herself up. Charmander would then charge him with a Slash. Erica would call for a Razor Leaf, but Charmander would weave in between them, striking with the Slash. Victory Bell would live, but then bear damage would take her out. Erica would then send in Vileplume. Vileplume would start off with a Stun Spore. The attack would connect, paralyzing Charmander. Ash would call for an Ember, and the attack would connect, but Vileplume would retaliate with a Petal Dance. Ash would tell Charmander to dodge, but the paralysis would stop him. The attack would land head-on, doing big damage. Vileplume would then follow up with a Body Slam, taking Charmander out. Ash would then send out Pharaoh. Vileplume would then try another Stun Spore, but Pharaoh would cut it up with a Razor Wind. Ash would then call for a Drill Peck, and Pharaoh would charge in. Pharaoh would connect, however she would then immediately be blasted by a Solar Beam that Vileplume was charging up. Pharaoh would be severely weakened, but so would Vileplume. Vileplume would start charging another Solar Beam, but Pharaoh would break out a new move, Double Team. A bunch of Pharaohs would then appear, confusing Vileplume. Ash would then call for another Drill Peck, and Pharaoh would charge in, taking Vileplume out. Last out for Erica would be Tangela. Ash would call for a Drill Peck, but Erica would call for a Sleep Powder, connecting and putting Pharaoh to sleep. Tangela would then charge up a Solar Beam. It would connect, taking Pharaoh out. Last out for Ash would be Tangela. The two Tangela would lock eyes, ready to brawl. Ash would call for a Vine Whip, but Erica's would dodge, going for a Slam. The attack would connect, knocking Ash's Tangela back. Ash would then call for a Bind, landing the attack. Erica's Tangela would be held in place, so Ash would call for an Absorb, sucking her energy. However, Tangela would break free, then retaliating with a Solar Beam. The attack would land, doing a lot of damage. Ash would then call for a Vine Whip, landing and knocking Erica's Tangela out. Ash would be ecstatic and would run out to hug Tangela. Erica would then congratulate Ash, giving him his Rainbow Badge. And that's where our episode ends today. No new captures for Ash, but he did have an evolution. Brock caught Cubone and he was given Vulpix for Green caught Machop. Ash had 2 gym battles this episode and won both. If you have any suggestions or anything you want to see, comment them down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye, Pokebros.